Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Marloe Morar 310 Land Onyx. This watch is available from marlowatchcompany.com for €950. Marloe Watch Company are a well-established microbrand. They were founded in 2015 and they're based in England. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a cardboard watch box, which is in the form of a book inside a sleeve. Now, normally I would be critical of a microbrand at this price point, €950, of using a cardboard watch box, but on the base of the sleeve, Marloe Watch Company have given a statement regarding sustainability and recyclability of their packaging, and this explains why they've chosen to use cardboard, which of course is recyclable and sustainable, and I think it's fair enough. So inside we have the book, which you open, and on the left we have a QR code, so you can scan the QR code with your Android or iPhone, and that gives you access to the Morar 310 digital book. And on the right we have a piece of foam which you remove, and that protects the head of the piece, which is inside a foam cutout panel, so it does a good job of protecting the watch and shipping from any damage. And we also have the specifications of the piece, and also on the right the specifications of the movement used, which is the Miyota caliber 9039 automatic. So these two cardboard panels are removable, and I'll remove them and show you the cutouts inside. Now on the left we have a spring bar tool, and it's also branded, so I'll take it out and show it to you. Just bear with me. It's secured by two lycra straps. So we've got time well spent, and this is the motto of Marloe Watch Company. On one end it's got a two-pronged fork, and at the other end it's got a push pin, and it's a good quality spring bar tool. Nice to get this included for exchanging the strap on the Morar 310. Now as you can see on the left we have a cutout for the head of the piece, and you remove the head of the piece from the foam cutout and then you fit the strap included. So good presentation, and they deserve credit for using recyclable and also sustainable materials, cardboard, rather than using plastic or vinyl. With regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 42mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 45.6mm, a thickness of 13.7mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The nylon strap is straight and parallel. It's 20mm at the lugs and also 20mm at the Velcro strap, as you can see, and it's embroidered to a good standard with the Marloe Watch Company emblem, the M, as you can see. Good quality stitching throughout, good quality Velcro, and also it's got an embroidered time well spent, which, as I've detailed, is the motto of Marloe Watch Company. Now, the nylon fabric is stiff, and that's something to bear in mind, and also it does feel quite rough rather than being soft and supple. I'll just open it up and show you the underside. Now, the Morar 310 is offered on a plethora of straps, and also a Milanese mesh bracelet and a stainless steel bracelet. They also offer it on a plethora of colours with regards to the straps, and you can also have it on a rubber strap, alternatively silicone rubber strap. But the one thing that is missing from their collection, and I would really like to see them introduce, is a seatbelt weave strap and also an FKM fluoro rubber strap, because a seatbelt weave strap would be more comfortable. It would be more soft and supple than this nylon strap, which looks like a NATO strap in terms of the texture of it. It does feel stiff and it also feels rough, so the comfort level could be enhanced if they use seatbelt weave nylon strap, and also if they offered FKM fluoro rubber as an alternative to silicone rubber, because it's more durable and robust, and also it's very comfortable as per natural rubber, which they do offer. But quality of the strap is good. The negative is it uses standard spring bars. Again, they could enhance this by using quick release spring bars, because that would negate the need for a spring bar tool in order for exchanging the strap, because it is quite stiff and therefore it's difficult to get a spring bar in between the edge of the strap and the internals of the lugs in order to depress the spring bar and remove it. So there is room for refinement. Quick release spring bars would really enhance it. But quality of the stitching is very good on the top side and underside, and the quality of the Velcro is also very good. So it does work very well, although it is stiff. So just bear with me, and I'm going to do it back up and then I'll continue. So we have a boxed top hat crystal, which is flat rather than being double domed, and it has AR coating on the underside. The clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the skeletonized hands, and also the mirror polished applied indices. The hands are mirror polished to a good standard, the proportions are correct, and the mirror polished indices are also correctly proportioned. Good symmetry to the dial, and that's the benefit of using the Miyota caliber 9039 automatic, because it doesn't have a date complication. So there's no phantom date setting position on the crown, and of course there is no date wheel beneath the dial, and therefore the dial has perfect symmetry. I like the proportions of the Marloe text logo, and also like the 310, which has a 3D effect. It's domed rather than just being printed flat on the dial. And either side of the 6 o'clock index we have British design, because Marloe Watch Company are a British microbrand based in England, and of course their watches are therefore designed in Britain. So nice matte black dial. The contrast of the dial is very good. I like that it's not glossy enamel black, because it's not reflective. The matte black means it's very dull, so therefore it's not shiny. The legibility, the clarity is good, and also the proportions of the indices are very well proportioned to the hands, which are partially skeletonized. Nice attention to detail, because the second hand has an orange tip, which complements the 310 domed, as you can see, logo at the 6 o'clock position. So it's very good, very nice continuity of design. With regards to the bezel, it's ceramic, and they deserve credit because they used a domed profile to it. It reminds me of the domed sapphire bezel insert used on the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and it gives the piece a nice vintage aesthetic. So as you can see, the ceramic has a glossy finish to it, and it's inlaid with white paint. The first quarter are indexed with 15-minute ticks, and then the rest of it has a chaptering for the other 60-minute ticks. The proportions of the Arabic numerals are good. They're well engraved and inlaid with white paint. I think this could be further enhanced. For example, they could engrave it and inlay it with BGW9 Super Lume Nova and have a fully loomed ceramic bezel insert, because they've only loomed the Lume Pip at 12 o'clock, and I think that they've missed an opportunity here, because they could have fully loomed all the minute ticks and all the Arabic numerals with Super Lume Nova. With regards to the crown guards, they've got a nice proportion. They're mirror polished to a good standard. And if you look closely, the top crown guard is engraved with an arrow and O for open, and the lower crown guard is engraved with an arrow for C for closed. So it gives you the direction with the arrowhead, O for open, C for closed. Nice attention to detail. The other good design aspect is there are two screws, and they secure the crown guards. So the crown guards are removable as per an Oris Aquis, for example. And the benefit of that is, if the crown guards become dented or damaged with impact damage, you don't have to replace the case, and you don't have to laser weld it to repair the damage. You can simply unscrew the damaged crown guards and replace the crown guards alone, rather than the entire case. So from the point of view of longevity of the case and durability, it's a good feature to have, removable crown guards, because often it is the case with a tool watch, a dive piece, the crown guards do get damaged with impact damage, and of course then one has to either laser weld the case or alternatively replace the case. So by having removable crown guards, you can easily replace them if they become damaged, scuffed and scratched, etc. Knurled crown, solid 316L grade stainless steel, and the proportions of the knurled crown are very good. It's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with it with your index finger and thumb, but doesn't have any sharp edges. It doesn't protrude too far beyond the right hand flank and also the two crown guards. So let's test the bezel execution. Now, one of my favourite aspects of the bezel is you can see it has a rifled finish to it. And they deserve credit for coming up with something original. Rather than using the default option of a gear tooth profile, coin edge profile, or alternatively scalloped bezel, they've used the rifled bezel, as you can see, which has these diagonal rifled lines. And it's very aesthetically pleasing because it has contrasting brushed satin finishing to the cutouts, but also mirror polish to the teeth. Now, it's not sharp, although it does look like a sharp bezel. It's very grippy and tactile, but it doesn't have any sharp tips to the teeth, so the rifle bezel does add interest to it, and it's also high profile. So if you do use this as a dive piece, wearing a wetsuit and gloves, when your hand is wet or wearing a glove, you can still get good purchase on it. So it's a very grippy and tactile bezel with good proportions. So let's test the execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. It has a light resistance to it. I would prefer a medium or firmer resistance, but this is subjective. Some collectors like a light resistance to the bezel, some prefer medium or firm. I personally prefer the latter. But it feels even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. It doesn't get tighter or looser, which is good. Nice, loud, audible clicks. So I like the sound of it. It feels like a nice, heavy ratcheting mechanism. You can hear the click spring beneath the bezel engaging with 120 grooves in the underside of the stainless steel rifled bezel. So nice, robust bezel. No lateral side-to-side play. No back play whatsoever. So it's nice and tight despite having a light resistance to it in regard to the rotation. Let's just check the alignments. One more click. Bang on 12 o'clock. So the alignment is correct. The Lume pip on the ceramic bezel insert perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index and the 60-minute tick on the chapter ring. So this is an example to other microbrands of how to get bezel execution correct. It feels even through the 360 degrees of rotation. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, perfect alignment. Outstanding bezel execution, although I would prefer it to be slightly more firm with regards to the resistance, but this is subjective. Let's test this screw down crown execution. So, knurled screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 310 meters, as the name suggests, Morar 310. And it is signed, as you can see, matte B blasted effect to the background, and we've got an engraved M for Marloe Watch Company, their emblem, which is good. Silky smooth, unscrews with a minimal number of turns, and 310 meters of specification is strong. So, absolutely sublime, no friction whatsoever, silky smooth, perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. There are two rubber O-ring gaskets, one inside the stainless steel crown and a second one inside the stainless steel crown tube, and the two rubber O-ring gaskets provide an effective hermetic seal to 310 meters. So this is a no date complication movement, the Miyota caliber 9039 automatic, so therefore we do not have a phantom date setting position. There's no first click. When it's unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, so one can manually wind the caliber 9039 to its maximum 42-hour power reserve. Feels nice and smooth, medium resistance to it, low friction in the gearing, and it feels very good to manually wind. I like the tension gradually building up, so it's a very smooth and robust movement. And the 9039 feels very pleasurable to manually wind. Putting it out to the first click position is the final click. If you look at the contrasting orange tip to the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the caliber 9039 automatic. Nice light resistance to the gearing. Clockwise and anti-clockwise, it feels very smooth. Minimal friction to it, so good robust movement. I like the build quality, quality control and materials used in the 9039. Minimal back play. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there is some very slight back play, so you have to take up the slack, and that's a characteristic of the 9039 that you have to live with, but it is acceptable. So when you rotate the crown, you've got to get used to taking up that slack, the back play clockwise and anti-clockwise, but it does feel very smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise, so absolute pleasure to set the time. Pushing back in the crown has a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the orange contrasting second hand begins to sweep around the dial at the characteristic 4 Hz smooth sweep. Something I like about the 9039 is that it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and therefore it has the smooth sweep of a 4 Hz frequency, rather than stuttering or juddering around the dial as per a 3 Hz movement such as the Seiko NH35A, which runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour respectively. So we get that nice smooth sweep of the contrasting orange hand running at 4 Hz, nice and smooth, it doesn't stutter or judder around the dial. So let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup, there's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Silky smooth, very good. Marloe Watch Company deserve full credit for this. It's a very satisfying screw down crown to use. So I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, mirror polished background and engraved, as you can see, to a high standard, and we've also got 310 engraved because of course this is 310 meters water resistant. Around the circumference is matte B blasted effect with a specification and also Marloe Watch Company designed in Britain. So very nicely engraved, doesn't have any sharp edges or burrs to the engraving. It's nice and sharp and crisp but doesn't feel sharp, so it doesn't rub against the wrist and scratch, it's not irritating. One thing I like about it, and this is the benefit of using the Miyota Caliber 9039, which is a low profile version of the 9015, it's very flat. And you can see they've made the correct decision by not using a bubble back profile to the case back. 310 meters is strong specification, but they haven't used a case back which is too thick with a bubble back to clear the rotor. As you can see, it's nice and flat, and this is the kind of flat profile one would expect with a manual wind or quartz powered movement piece, but this is an automatic. So 310 meters is good. I like the mirror polishing to it and the engraving. The milled slots are very well machined, no sharp edges or burrs to the milled slots, and they're very aesthetically pleasing around the circumference. The circumference is mirror polished to a good standard, so the quality of the finishing to the case back and also the underside to the head of the piece is very good. The mirror polishing is done to a very good standard. With regards to the case finishing, flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, and also the lugs, which look like wire lugs, are beautifully mirror polished. Now, on the 12 o'clock side of the piece, we have a helium escape valve. So again, this is very strong specification, and at this price point, €950, one doesn't often see a helium escape valve. Usually it's on more expensive mid-tier pieces with 500 meters plus of water resistance. This is 310 meters, but they have included the helium escape valve for saturation diving. So this is a credible tool watch which can be used for saturation diving due to the inclusion of the helium escape valve. Also interesting choice of position, putting it at the 12 o'clock position rather than the default 9 o'clock position on the left hand flank of the case. Often helium escape valves are put at 9 o'clock, and it does look smoother. The left hand flank of the case is perfectly smooth because it doesn't have the helium escape valve there, which is where it's always visible. By putting it at 12, you're not going to be looking at it all the time. So good position and good strong specification, 310 meters plus the helium escape valve for saturation divers. Now I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, as I've detailed, the Morar 310 is available with a plethora of strap options. Also, you can have it on a Milanese stainless steel bracelet, a steel bracelet, or alternatively silicone rubber straps or a rubber strap, and of course a plethora of colour options for the fabric nylon straps. I personally think that an FKM fluoro rubber strap would enhance this piece, and as I've detailed, I would like to see them update this or upgrade the nylon fabric strap to a seatbelt weave nylon strap, because that would further enhance the comfort level. But very aesthetically pleasing piece. Now the thing to note is it does wear with wrist presence, as one would expect. 42mm is a large head of the piece, so clearly this is intended for collectors with a larger wrist size of 7 to 8 inches. If you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you may find that it wears with too much wrist presence at 42mm. But on a positive note, it does have a relatively compact lug-to-lug measurement of only 45.6. In my previous reviews, you will know that I always refer to 48 as being the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. 48 fits all wrist sizes. So at 45.6, it's a rather compact lug-to-lug measurement, but the benefit of it being 45.6 and well below the 48mm sweet spot is this will still fit you if you have a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, which is unusual for a 42mm head of the piece. I would expect the lug-to-lug measurement to be 48mm plus. Now, the thing to note is it is a tall piece. Although it does have a flat screw-down stainless steel case back, which is very good because the head of the piece sits very snug to the wrist, the boxed top hat crystal does add significant thickness. It adds 2mm of thickness to the overall thickness of the piece. This is slightly tall at 13.7. I think that Marloe Watch Company could have improved this piece by using a flat sapphire crystal rather than the boxed top hat profile. But again, this is subjective because some collectors will like the vintage aesthetic of using a boxed profile to the crystal because it does make it look like a 1960s or 1970s dive piece with an acrylic or plexiglass crystal. They did have that boxed top hat profile to them in the 1960s and 1970s. So sapphire crystal, of course, is more harder and scratch resistant than acrylic or plexiglass, but this does have the aesthetic of a vintage dive piece. It does complement the domed profile to the ceramic bezel insert, which, as I've detailed, does remind me of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms sapphire bezel insert, which has a similar domed profile to it. So the boxed top hat crystal does complement the domed ceramic bezel insert, does look very aesthetically pleasing, but when you look at the piece straight on, there is good clarity and legibility. The AR coating works very well, and one doesn't get the characteristic distortion or magnification effect as per a single domed crystal, which is curved on the top side and flat on the underside. They've made the correct decision by making it flat on the top rather than domed, because that does reduce the thickness of the piece. Now, 13mm is the sweet spot to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. At 13.7 it is 0.7mm slightly thick, and I think they could reduce that and still retain the 310 meters of hermetic seal simply by using a flat sapphire crystal rather than the boxed top hat crystal, which adds 2mm, but it is very good looking. It's going to be slightly difficult to slip underneath a shirt cuff. That's the thing to bear in mind. Comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time due to the smooth case back. The thing that surprises me is it is only 107 grams, so it does lack heft, bearing in mind it is a large 42mm head of the piece. So 107 grams on the nylon strap is very comfortable, and it doesn't feel like a top heavy piece. It feels balanced, but again, I think it could be further enhanced if they included a FKM rubber strap rather than just silicone rubber or natural rubber. I think this piece would look very good, but also be very comfortable on a FKM rubber strap rather than this nylon strap. So let's do a lume test, and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. So this piece uses X1BL-GL Super Luminova. Now, as you can see, there is a colour tone mismatch, and you can see on the minute hand it's got a green tone which matches the 12 o'clock index on the dial and also the lume pip on the ceramic bezel insert. But the rest of the indices have a blue tone, and the hour hand and also the lume pip or the dots on the second hand also is in blue. Personally, I would prefer if they use one colour of lume rather than having the mismatch of green and blue, but this is subjective. Of course, some collectors like that. They like the minute hand to be a contrasting green colour and the indices to be blue. Other brands do this, for example Amiga with the Seamaster and also the Planet Ocean respectively, but I think it would look better if they just use blue throughout on the lume pip, the indices and the handset, or alternatively green throughout on the lume pip, handset and indices. But on a positive note, the X1BL-GL Super Luminova is performing very well. The exciter is glowing very brightly, both in the green and also the blue. The blue tone does look similar to BGW9, and the green tone does look similar to C3. And in terms of performance, the X1BL-GL Super Luminova does perform to a similar standard. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers, and I'm pleased to see that Marloe Watch Company haven't used the cost-cutting measure of 5 to 6 layers of application on the handset and also the applied indices. So good colour tone match in daylight on the lume pip, the dial and also the handset. They look white, and in the dark there's also a good colour tone match because the blue tone matches on the hour hand and also the applied indices, and the green tone matches on the lume pip, on the bezel insert and also the 12 o'clock index and the green minute hand, as you can see. The exciter is glowing brightly in both the green and also the blue, and I think that the colour tone match is good. Proportions of the hands are good, and you can clearly differentiate between the blue hour hand and the longer green minute hand. So legibility is good, symmetry of the dial is good with the absence of a date complication at 3 or 6, and that's the benefit of using the Miyota Caliber 9039. It's a no date complication movement, and therefore there's no phantom date setting position, but also the dial is perfectly symmetrical without a date window. So good performance, it's not fading whatsoever, and Marloe Watch Company deserve credit because they haven't cut any corners with regards to the quality of the Super Luminova they're using. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. Now, you'll all be familiar with the Miyota Caliber 9039 Automatic because it is a personal favourite of mine. It's one of my favourite Miyota calibers. It's a premium movement, part of their 9000 series, so higher grade than their 8000 series such as the 8215. The architecture of the 9039 is the same as the 9015, which it is based upon. Effectively, it is a low-profile version of the Caliber 9015. So, to explain what that means is it's a thinner movement because the hand stack height on the Canon pinion is lower on the 9039. The benefit of that is the dial can sit closer to the underside of the sapphire crystal. One doesn't need a deep stainless steel retort. in between the sapphire crystal and the dial. That improves legibility. That is the benefit. The low hand stack height on the cannon pinion. The hands are close to the sapphire crystal, the dial is close to the sapphire crystal, so it's a low profile movement. The other benefit is it means the piece can be made very thin, and even though this is 310 meters water resistant, which is strong specification, it is only 13.7, bearing in mind it uses a thick boxed top hat sapphire crystal. So 9039 is thin, it's low profile with a low hand stack height. It has 24 joules and it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking and no date complication, which is good because that deletes the phantom date setting position. If it used the 9015 with a date complication, we would have the phantom date setting position. 42-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable, and the stated accuracy of the 9039 is -10 to +30 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Marloe Watch Company are well regulating the caliber 9039s they're using. This one is running consistently at +6 seconds per day. So +6 is well within the stated -10 to +30 seconds per day, and it's actually chronometer grade accurate. -4 to +6 is chronometer grade. So they're clearly regulating their movements in 5 positions to get +6 seconds per day chronometer accuracy. +6 is perfectly acceptable for a 9039. So reliable, well proven, accurate workhorse movement, made in Japan, and it's been in service since 2013. So it's a reliable, well proven movement. No negatives to it whatsoever. I really like the 9039. Very smooth to hand wind, hacking works well, and the power reserve 42 hours is perfectly acceptable. +6 is very accurate, so it is the correct choice of movements at this price point, €950. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, the price point is €950. I'm going to declare it good quality, and I'm going to declare the value as okay. I'm not going to say the value is good or excellent because at €950 it does face some stiff competition from alternative micro brands. In order for this to be good or excellent value, I would like to see Marloe Watch Company slightly reduce the price point to make it more competitive. The other thing they could do is they could enhance the piece by offering it with several other straps. For example, an FKM fluoro rubber strap as an alternative to this nylon strap. The nylon strap is okay, it's acceptable, but at €950 one expects to see 2 or 3 different straps included, or alternatively with a bracelet as well as the strap at the price point, rather than having to pay extra for a stainless steel bracelet or extra straps. So there is room for improvement with regards to the value, either lower the price point or alternatively increase the options that come with it, for example additional straps. But quality is good. Bezel execution is excellent, the AR coating is excellent, the performance of the Super Luminova is excellent, and the silky smooth crown. 310 meters is strong specification. So, well executed piece, quality control, builds quality, and the materials used, the specification is loaded because we've got a helium escape valve, removable lugs, and also the rifled bezel. All of these things are nice. So I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Marloe Watch Company Morar 310 Land Onyx. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.